I lost 20 pounds while working 60-plus-hour weeks by stealing 3 ancient habits from a culture that literally works itself to death. In Japan, overwork is so extreme there's a word for dying from it, Karoshi. Yet their obesity rate is 8 times lower than the US. Most people think it's just the green tea or the fish, but it's actually something much deeper. Take the clean plate rule. In the West, the mindset of don't waste food is a trap that leads to overeating massive portions. But in Japan, that exact same belief actually keeps people slim. That's because weight loss doesn't start with your habits, it starts with your foundation. In the West, we try to copy the choices, the small bowls and the light meals, while our culture is telling us to do the opposite. In this video, I'm showing you the 3 specific habits I use to translate that Japanese foundation to my own life so you can stay slim for good, no matter how busy or stressed you are. And their cultural foundation relies on 2 powerful forces, a stick and a carrot. The stick comes in 2 unapologetic forms. Don't worry, I'll show you afterward how to make it less scary. The first stick is the blunt truth. In Japan, if you gain weight, people will simply tell you. There's no social movement softening the blow or protecting your feelings. It's just culturally normal. The second is the literal law. If your waistline crosses the government threshold, roughly 33.5 inches for men, 35.4 for women, your employer gets fined and you get placed into mandatory health counseling. This creates a cycle of social pressure, majority stay slim, you look around and see everybody is slim, so you make yourself stay slim before anybody even says anything. And you then become part of the everybody slim around me feeling. But you don't live in Japan, you're not going to find yourself, and you probably don't want your family commenting on your waistline at Sunday dinner. So we tend to skip the stick entirely. We only chase the carrot. We focus on the dream body and the goal weight. And research shows us exactly why that fails. In one famous study, researchers ran 3 separate tests to see what actually drives behavior. First, they put cheese in front of a rat. The rat ran toward it. The promise of a reward created a solid baseline level of effort. This is like pinning a photo of your dream body on your fridge. It gives you a nice, helpful burst of motivation for a few days, but it's rarely enough to stop you from ordering a pizza after a stressful day at work. Second, they took the cheese away and just placed the scent of a cat behind the rat. Driven by pure panic, it ran 4 to 5 times harder. But because it was running on fear alone, it burned out fast, only covering half the distance. This is like seeing an awful photo of yourself from a weekend party. Driven by pure panic, you starve yourself on Monday and do an hour of punishing cardio. But because you're running on sheer anxiety, your willpower completely shatters by Thursday, and you end up binging. Finally, they combined them. They put the cheese in front and the cat scent behind it at the same time. The rat's output didn't just add up, it exploded. It worked 20 times harder and ran twice as far. The carrot and the stick together created a drive that neither could produce on its own. But you don't live in Japan, so how do you create the carrot and stick for yourself? For the stick, you need an anti-vision, a vivid, terrifying picture of exactly where your life is headed if you don't change. Think about your absolute worst nightmare scenario for your health, your work, and your relationships. Get painfully specific. If you love traveling, don't just write, "I'll be out of shape." Write down exactly how it feels to visit a beautiful city and have to sit on a bench while your family walks to the best spots without you. Imagine standing outside the frame, watching the people you love live experiences that your body physically won't let you share. When you write this anti-vision, it should hit you in the gut. You need to reach a point where you're genuinely more terrified of staying the same than you are of doing the work to change. Once you have the stick pushing you forward, you need the carrot pulling you in. And for that, Japan has 3 philosophies that will completely rewire how you look at weight loss. The first is ikigai. In the West, we butcher this into a career formula, but its true heart is about finding joy in the process. It means you don't do habits just because they'll cause you to lose weight by your next check-in. You do them because they reflect who you want to be, your vision. But people write their vision wrong. They only define who they are when they're being perfect. But the real power of a vision is in defining how your future self handles failure. Don't just define your ideal self at the gym, define your ideal self during a breakdown. When a miserable day hits, your goal isn't perfection. It's reacting to that mess the way your future self would. Suddenly, every obstacle isn't a setback. It's an opportunity to practice the person you're becoming. That is ikigai, finding joy in the practice, even when the practice is hard. But that future self is so far away. And this is where we make a massive mistake. We try to overhaul our entire life the very next day to live exactly like that future self. And inevitably, we fail because it's simply too big of a leap. So what do? We use the second Japanese philosophy, Kaizen, small, continuous improvement. No dramatic overhauls. No, I'm throwing out all the carbs on Monday energy. One tiny sustainable change at a time. It's boring until you look back 6 months later and realize you are unrecognizable. But even those small improvements won't be executed perfectly every single day. And your reaction to that failure may not match your vision self every time. That's why you need the final piece, wabi-sabi. In the West, we obsess over streaks. But wabi-sabi is about accepting the imperfect and weathered. Think of it like kintsugi. When a bowl breaks, the Japanese don't throw it away. They fix the cracks with gold. The repair doesn't hide the damage. It makes it part of the story. In your journey, a slipped meal or a bad reaction isn't a sign that the vase is broken. It's a crack that you fill with the gold of another try. Wabi-sabi teaches you that a journey marked by struggle and recovery is actually more resilient and more beautiful than one that was simply perfect from day one. Together, these three shut off the exhausting mental warfare in your head. The cultural foundation is set, but mindset alone won't burn fat. To make it work, we have to translate the three philosophies into the physical choices or habits you make every day. Specifically, how you handle the two most critical windows, the time between your meals and during your meals. In the West, we're a culture of extremes. Our mantra is go big or go home. Between meals, we are either mindlessly grazing all day long or we are white-knuckling our way through extreme intermittent fasting. And during meals, we are either eating 100% clean or we are on a massive, uncontrolled 5,000 calorie cheat day. Japan is the exact opposite. It is a culture of balanced moderation. Here is what that moderation looks like in practice. First, the window between meals. This is where we practice Kaizen, small, steady discipline. Stop the mindless snacking that silently causes overeating. Instead, aim for a clean 4-hour gap between meals. This forces you to eat nutritious meals because you know you need to be satiated for the next 4 hours. And don't just sit there. Use the 50-17 Pomodoro rule. Work for 52 minutes, then take a 17-minute break to pace, stretch, and recover. No screens, actually rest. This lowers the cortisol that drives stress eating later. Second, the window during your meals. This is where we practice wabi-sabi, turning meals into an aesthetic experience. Ditch the massive half-empty dinner plates that make you feel deprived. Use smaller, beautiful bowls and plates. When the presentation looks like a gift rather than a restriction, you naturally become more present. Next, sequence your food. Eat a palm-sized protein first. This is your metabolic insurance policy. It's what makes that 4-hour fast till your next meal actually possible. Pair it with water or tea and keep your daily added sugar under 25 grams for women or 36 for men. Finally, practice ikigai with the 20-minute rule. Put the phone away, slow down, and find joy in the meal for 20 minutes. That also happens to be the exact amount of time it takes for your stomach to send the I am full signal to your brain. When you align your choices to your cultural foundation like this, they stop being a cultural quirky list you try to copy and fell off. They become permanent habits you benefit from, just like the culture's locals. But what about places like France? They have no laws or intense social pressure like Japan, and yet still have half the obesity rate of the US. Clearly, there is something even deeper than cultural foundation at play. The first principles of weight loss. If you want to master these principles, you have two ways to do it. One, if you want my help shortcutting the trial and error with a personalized roadmap to your body and lifestyle, check out my weight loss program in the description and pinned comment below. Or if you want to DIY it, you cannot afford to miss this video right here. I break down the European paradox and the invisible daily routines that make staying healthy almost zero effort without ever stepping foot in a gym. It's the step-by-step breakdown of how to make weight loss genuinely hard to mess up. I'll see you over there, and always remember, you can do it.